everybody. It is the 18th of July in the year 2022. This is our 4 o'clock Monday afternoon church service. If you are following us live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or Twitch, you can thank Restream.io. Restream.io allows us to go live on all 4 of those different places at the same time. This is Scriptural Salvation Baptist Tabernacle. My name is Andy. We had an exciting day yesterday as a family. We went to Saratoga Spa State Park. So that was a lot of fun. Cookout, swimming, water slide. Yeah. Got to take the dog and the baby, and we just had a lot of fun. I hope anybody out there is enjoying the weather where you are. Today was kind of rainy. No big deal. It's all right. We're okay with the rain. It helps water the earth and replenish the waterfalls. And then we will get going with our first song of the afternoon. The Lord is a Warrior, performed by the group Caedmon's Call. This one's basically going to fire right into the song, so if I don't have it up there right away, the song starts out with "The Lord is a warrior, the Lord is mighty in battle." So, all right. Let's see.
It's his choice.
Okay. You ready to go?
Yep.
Okay. And Okay. And we will continue on in our study in the book of Genesis. So we've been following Joseph and the story of his brothers and how Joseph is in Egypt. And we will pick up the story where the brothers are in Egypt at the time. They have just talked to feasted with their brother Joseph. Good work. All right. But before we continue on with the story of Joseph, lesson 32 of Genesis, we will read through the first half of Psalm number 34.
I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth.
Okay.
My soul makes a boast in the Lord. Let the
Humble.
humble hear and be.
Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. Sought.
Sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears.
Yes.
Those who look to him are radiant, and their faces shall never be ashamed.
This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles.
Very good. Don't go far, Richard.
The angel of the Lord encamps
And kids.
around those who fear him and deliver them.
Sounds kind of familiar, like a verse in a song we just sang, which is why I chose the song.
Yeah, I know. The angel of the Lord encamps on those who fear him and delivers them.
That was Richard. And you're eight.
Yeah.
It's there.
Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him.
Yeah, it's we're getting a wire off the TV.
That is Blair.
Paul.
Oh, fear the Lord, you, his
Saints.
saints, for those here
Those who fear him.
those who fear him have no
Lack.
lack.
The young lions suffer want and hunger, but those who seek the Lord lack no good thing.
Very good. And ready to take us home, Anna?
Come, O children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord.
Very good. And of course, this psalm will be continued next week. Okay. We will listen to the first 13 verses of chapter 44.
That's our presentation in this book.
Genesis 44, verses 1 through 13.
Now it's time for our favorite reader.
1 through 13.
Then everything.
There you go.
Genesis 44. Then he commanded the steward of his house, fill the men's sacks with food, as much as they can carry, and put each man's money in the mouth of his sack, and put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest, with his money for the grain. And he did, as Joseph told him. As soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away with their donkeys. They had gone only a short distance from the city. Now Joseph said to his steward, Up, follow after the men, and when you overtake them, say to them, Why have you repaid evil for good? Is it not from this that my Lord drinks, and by this that he practices divination? You have done evil in doing this. When he overtook them, he spoke to them these words. They said to him, Why does my Lord speak such words as these? Far be it from your servants to do such a thing. Behold, the money that we found in the mouths of our sacks we brought back to you from the land of Canaan. How then could we steal silver or gold from your Lord's house? Whichever of your servants is found with it shall die, and we also will be my Lord's servants. He said, Let it be as you say. He who is found with it shall be my servant, and the rest of you shall be. Then each man quickly lowered his sack to the ground, and each man opened his sack. And he searched, beginning with the eldest and ending with the youngest. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they tore their clothes, and every man loaded his donkey, and they returned to the city.
Uh-oh.
Richard, hit the button for me, Richard.
All right, here we go again.
No, don't hit the table. Move the camera. That wasn't too bad. Okay. Bless you.
Thank you.
So following along in the story, we know that all the brothers had gone home to their father, and it took him a bit to talk them into letting him bring Benjamin down to Joseph. And they get back down to Joseph, and he says, "You guys are going to come in here and feast with me, and come into my house." And they got all scared because they thought they were going to get eliminated. They figured it was all a trap.
Star Wars. It's a trap.
Yes, but
Just
they ended up being shown mercy and forgiveness by their brother whom they had wronged. So they're in Egypt, and they're given the grain, and they feasted, and their brother Joseph has his servant fill up their traveling packs with money and with supplies. But what he does is he takes a silver cup and he puts it in Benjamin's bag. Now, why would he be doing something like this? So he seems like he stole it. Yeah, we've seen something like this before, haven't we?
Yep.
A silver cup, it's obviously setting up a trap or setting something up. And what this reminded me of is what after Jacob had worked for Laban all those years and he was getting ready to leave, his favorite wife Rachel stole an idol from her father and hid it in the saddle. And you remember what she had told her father was the reason that he couldn't look? She was having the way of women, right? That's all I'm going to say about that, period. Bad joke. Okay. But that's what this reminds me of. Jake just caught. Okay, yeah, it caught him. Yeah, I knew it wouldn't. She takes that idol and hides it. Now here we have a silver cup Is it anything special? We don't know yet. But Joseph takes it and puts it in Benjamin's traveling bag. And he allows the brothers to leave. Now they must be feeling pretty good. They left their home. They came down. They thought they were going to be in trouble for having the money, with them the first time, but they weren't. They thought for sure they were going to get killed. They weren't. They didn't get enslaved. Joseph brought him in and they feasted with him, and everything was going good. And they get Simeon back, and they have Benjamin. Everything is going good for these brothers, and they go and they leave. Now, my advice to these brothers is the first time they went and left, they had extra money put in their bags. This time they go and leave and they don't look in their bags. Maybe they should look in their bags before they leave. It's kind of like you go to the drive-thru and you check the bag before you leave completely. That's what these guys are going to the drive-thru and they continually forget something, but instead for them, something's always added. So
I don't play mercy.
now Joseph tells his steward to say, we're going to plant this cup in there, and when you catch up to them, tell them that Joseph practices divination. Now, in the ancient world, divination, or using objects to perform witchcraft, was very common. Here in Genesis, this is the second time that it's mentioned. The other person that it said practiced divination was Laban. He knew that Joseph was a godly man, not because that Jacob was a godly man, not because Jacob was a godly man, but because Laban practiced divination. Joseph says, hey, tell them I practiced divination with that cup so that it makes their stealing of it that much more important. You're stealing something so important to me because I practiced divination with it. Now, some people suggest that Joseph has framed a cruel payback to all his brothers by taking this cup and hiding it in Benjamin's travel pack, and that Joseph also actually practiced divination. But honestly, I don't think it's in his character at all. From what we've seen from Joseph and the things that he does and the things that he says, I don't think that he does any of those things. I don't think he has a payback bone in his body, and I don't think he practices divination with a silver cup. The steward, now the brothers have left, and they're on their way a little bit, and the steward takes his fast running chariot, and he catches up to them, and the steward goes, hey, what are you doing? You stole something from my master. Paul, you're right near the microphone. Okay. You stole something from my master. You can't be doing this. And the brothers say, well, we don't have a reason to steal from you. The first time that there was money in our bags, we brought it back to you. Why would we steal more this time? If we've stolen something from you, the brothers say, just put us to death. We all deserve to die. The steward says, well, no, because he knows what's going on. He says, what we'll do is the person that the cup is in possession of, we'll make them a slave for the rest of their lives, and we'll let everybody else go free. As Jacob had Rachel, and she had stolen the idol, and Laban catches up and says, somebody stole my idol, Jacob goes, no, whoever stole this idol, go ahead and put them to death. It's very similar to this. Benjamin has the cup. The absolute worst thing that could happen, the youngest that everybody is trying to protect, the last son that Jacob loves and wants to see alive, has the cup. So he's the one that's going to have to stay there and be a slave. Everybody tears their clothes. Now, in the ancient world, when you tear your clothes like this and start screaming, it was their way of signifying that they were mourning death. Somebody had died, so they all tear their clothes. Now, they're tearing their clothes here and acting like somebody had died, but nobody actually has. But to their father, if they don't bring Benjamin back, it's like a death sentence to him. So that is the significance of them tearing their clothes. And we will listen to verses 14 through 23. Through 23.
When Judah and his brothers came to Joseph's house, he was still there. They fell before him to the ground. Joseph said to them, "What deed is this that you have done? Do you not know that a man like me can indeed practice divination?" And Judah said, "What shall we say to my lord? What shall we speak? Or how can we clear ourselves? God has found out the guilt of your servants. Behold, we are my lord's servants, both we and he also, in whose hand the cup has been found." But he said, "Far be it from me that I should do so. Only the man in whose hand the cup was found shall be my servant. But as for you, go up in peace to your father." Judah went up to him and said, "O my lord, please, let your servant speak a word in my lord's ears, and let not your anger burn against your servant. For you are like Pharaoh himself. My lord asked his servant, saying, 'Have you a father or a brother?' And we said to my lord, 'We have a father, an old man, and a young brother, the child of his old age. His brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother's children, and his father loves him.' Then you said to your servants, 'Bring him down to me, that I may set my eyes on him.' We said to my lord, 'The boy cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die.' Then you said to your servants, 'Unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you shall not see my face again.'"
Here, okay, I did it right there. Now, there's a reason why that doesn't sound like it's done, because it's not done. It kind of cuts off, but we'll take that in pieces. All right. Okay. Joseph says, "Don't you know a man like thee can indeed practice divination?" And in my thought, he's reassuring himself that I know I don't do this thing, but I could do this. I'm an important Egyptian official. I could be practicing divination. I've got the silver cup. I just think it's him trying to talk himself into he actually does it. And then Judah basically says, "Listen, you caught us. You have the evidence. I'm not going to fight with you. I'm not going to lie with you." And he comes out and says, God has found out the guilt. He's basically saying, I'm not going to fight with you. You're the one with more power here. And God knows the thing that's right. So it's not my place to try to prove you otherwise. Judah says they are all going to serve Benjamin's punishment with him. Listen, he's the little boy. He's the one that's guilty of this, but we're all going to stay here with him. Joseph tries to change Judah's mind. Only Benjamin is the one that's guilty. He has to stay here and be a slave. The rest of you are free. Go back to your father. Judah starts what I call his inspiring speech, and it lasts for the rest of the chapter. Like I said, it starts here. It's not over yet, but we get a taste of the character that Judah has become. He's becoming the Lion of Judah. And he talks to Joseph and he says, remember your old father that you had asked about? Benjamin, and my father loves Benjamin because Benjamin is the son of his old age. Kind of like Leah's the daughter of my old age. Benjamin is the son of his old age. Loves him, and it would devastate him if Benjamin didn't come back. These are the same brothers that didn't care about how much Joseph was loved or favored by Jacob. Now, in the beginning of this whole story of Joseph, Joseph was favored and loved by Jacob, but the brothers didn't care. It drove a wedge between Joseph, their father, and them. They didn't care about their father, and they didn't care about Joseph. Our father didn't want Benjamin to come down here with us, but we needed food. We were going to die, and the only way that we could get food is if we brought Benjamin down here with us. And in the next piece of the chapter, Judah continues his speech. But it's interesting to me that this is the same Judah that didn't care about his brother Joseph at all. Didn't care. Well, he kind of cared because he didn't want to see his brother killed. He said sell him off to slavery, but that was just so that he could make a quick buck. He cared more about making the money than he did about his brother or his father. It devastated his father. Remember this. And we will listen to the rest of this chapter, verses 24 through 34.
When we went back to your servant my father, we told him the words of my lord. And when our father said, go again, buy us a little food, we said, we cannot go down. If our youngest brother goes with us, then we will go down. For we cannot see the man's face unless our youngest brother is with us. Then your servant my father said to us, you know that my wife bore me 2 sons. One left me, and I said, surely he has been torn to pieces, and I have never seen him since. If you take this one also from me, and harm happens to him, you will bring down my gray hairs in evil to Sheol. Now therefore, as soon as I come to your servant my father, and the boy is not with us, then, as his life is bound up in the boy's life, as soon as he sees that the boy is not with us, he will die. And your servant will bring down the gray hairs of your servant our father with sorrow to Sheol. For your servant became a pledge of safety for the boy to my father, saying, if I do not bring him back to you, then I shall bear the blame before my father all my life. Now therefore, please, let your servant remain instead of the boy as a servant to my lord, and let the boy go back with his brothers. For how can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? I fear to see the evil that would find my father.
Judah continues his recap of the story about how of the food buying and all the things that Joseph knew. And he gets to the part of the story where they're back in the promised land and he takes charge. He tells Joseph about how Israel didn't want Benjamin to come down. It was in the last chapter where we talked about Israel having fatalism over faith. He didn't have faith that Benjamin would come back. He was more thinking that Benjamin was going to end up dying. Judah pleads with Joseph as his life is bound up in the boy's life. His life, being the father, is bound up in Benjamin's life. Benjamin is so important to their father that it would absolutely destroy him. Father in the past had loved Joseph, and the brothers didn't care. They didn't care about Joseph and his life and the things that he did, and they didn't care about their father because they let their brother be sold into slavery. It destroyed their father, and it obviously had effect on Joseph's life. Judah, though, this time says, I'm a pledge of safety for the boy to my father. Judah is taking responsibility for Benjamin. He's stepping up and taking a leadership role. If I do not bring him back to you, then I shall bear the blame all of my life. Where was this Judah 20 years ago when Joseph was sold into slavery? Yeah, he said, okay, let's sell Joseph into slavery, but it still took Joseph away from his father and crushed him inside. He wasn't responsible for his brother then, didn't think about what it would do to anybody else. Let me stay in the boy's place. Now, this is something that's called a substitutionary sacrifice. That's when you offer your life in place of somebody else, right? And there's another Bible figure that substitutes their life for ours. They are the most famous substitutionary sacrifice.
Isn't that Jesus?
Yes.
Oh,
And
yes,
Jesus says, greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. And that comes to us from John 15:13. Judah is trying to substitute his life for Benjamin and let Benjamin live. Jesus substituted his life for ours. And what this whole piece of the chapter shows, that the brothers have grown. They care more about other people than themselves, and they care more about what would happen to their father. And this is an example of great love, when you're willing to lay down your life. Now, Judah wasn't willing to be killed. He was willing to stay and be a slave in Benjamin's place. Jesus went to the cross for us and was killed for our sins. He substituted his life for ours. And we will start chapter 45, verses 1 through 15. Now, the entire chapter, Joseph has been holding that gender reveal fireworks, getting ready to shoot them off and say, hey, I'm actually Joseph. You all know those videos you watch when the people shoot the fireworks off that show there. This whole time he's been hiding that secret under his hat. But now he's about to show everybody who he is. This is the moment that we've known about, Joseph's known, but the brothers aren't keyed in on.
Going to be happy.
I'm really gonna be crying. Joseph, heal me.
Genesis 45. Then Joseph could not control himself. All those who stood by him, he cried, make everyone go out from me. So no one stayed with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud so that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard it. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed at his presence. So Joseph said to his brothers, come near to me, please. Then they came near, and he said, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there are yet 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to keep alive for you many survivors. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house, and ruler over all the land of Egypt. Hurry, and go up to my father and say to him, thus says your son Joseph, God has made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down to me. Do not tarry. You shall dwell in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near me, you and your children, and your children's children, and your flocks, your herds, and all that you have. There I will provide for you, for there are yet 5 years of famine to come, so that you and your household and all that you have do not come to poverty. And now your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see, that it is my mouth that speaks to you. You must tell my father of all my honor in Egypt, and of all that you have seen. Hurry, and bring my father down here. Then he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck, and wept. And Benjamin wept upon his neck. And he kissed all his brothers, and wept upon them. After that, his brothers talked with him.
Well,
Now, these are the same brothers who wanted Joseph dead. They wanted him out of the way. They didn't like him sucking up to the father. They didn't like the way that he was favored above the rest of the other boys. Yeah, he did get sent down to slavery, but is that really a better life? Did the brothers really do right at all? No.
No.
Joseph has been nothing but wronged his entire life. Uh-oh, what just happened? I don't know what I did. Okay. Yep, don't hit that button. Okay. Now remember when they tricked their father too, when they took Joseph's coat and they spilled animal blood on it, and they didn't have a CSI team to come in and examine the blood to see if it was human or animal. Remember that? They didn't even have microscopes back then.
Or telescopes.
Or telescopes, no. They tricked the father. These are the same brothers that did that. They didn't care about their father's love for Joseph, and they didn't care what losing Joseph would do to their father, and they didn't care what would happen to Joseph if they sent him down to slavery. Instead of letting him be kind of an outcast in the family and letting him live at home, they still went through with their plan because it benefited them. Now they're willing to substitute their lives to keep Benjamin alive because it means so much to their father. This shows the massive growth that they have had as people. Then Joseph could not control himself. Now, in the last chapter, I said that some scholars try to say that Joseph is planning this revenge and payback. Joseph couldn't control himself and he starts to cry. It's proof that this was all a test to see how his brothers would do. It proves that he loves them all. He's showing them mercy, and this hurt him emotionally to have his brothers go through all this. And all he wants is to be with them and to love them. He cries as before, but this time he releases the gender reveal balloons and says, "Listen, I'm Joseph, here I am." For they were dismayed at his presence. Now, when you think of the word dismayed, you think of sad, you think of a whole bunch of sadness. And we should also tie in the word shocked. They're not just sad, they're shocked as well, because they were certain this whole time that Joseph was gone. There's no way that he would have survived all those years of slavery, and there's definitely no way that he could have risen and become second in command in Egypt. They knew that they had done Joseph wrong the moment they see him and he reveals himself to them. Joseph pardons them. He forgives them. He shows them mercy and compassion. And Joseph looks at them and says, "God sent me before you to preserve life. I'm here for a reason." Joseph was sold into slavery and became the best slave there ever was. And then he gets imprisoned and becomes the best prisoner in the entire prison. Then he starts to interpret dreams and becomes the best dream interpreter. And he's hired by the Pharaoh and becomes the best vice Pharaoh that there is. Joseph, no matter what is thrown in front of him, he doesn't complain, and he excels at it, becomes the best there is to be. He always thrives, he never complains, and he also tells his brothers, I'm here for a reason. Everything that's happened in my life up to now is lining up for an endpoint. Now, here we're given an important piece of information. We're 2 years into the famine. That means there are 5 left. It's not turning around anytime soon. The famine was going to be so bad that everybody would forget about the 7 years of goodness. The 7 years of bad would be so terrible that everybody would be suffering. And God sent before me to preserve for you a remnant on earth. You're not going to survive where you are in Canaan because it's not going to be possible. You didn't plan for the 7 years of drought through these 7 years of plenty, like we did here in Egypt. This is not the first time in the book of Genesis that our main characters have left Canaan to go to Egypt. It happened with Abraham and it happened with Isaac. And what it was is they went to Egypt to preserve Abraham's line and descendants. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. In the past, I've talked to you about sovereign plan, and this was all part of God's plan to preserve Abraham's descendants and to get to the ultimate end goal, which is making a line of descendants to Jesus. They are in the right place, which is Egypt, at the right time where they have food during a global famine. Joseph looks at them and says, I have divine info. I know about this 7 years of famine, and I planned for it, and I'm in charge here. So I've got a leg up on everybody. Go back and tell Father to come here to Egypt so that he can live, that I'm here, I'm alive, and that I'm in charge, and that there's a long famine left, and you can preserve your line here in Egypt. Not just family members will be brought down, but bring your flocks, your herds, and everything you have, because you're going to be staying down here for a long time. And here we are at the end of the book of Genesis, and what this is doing is setting up the book of Exodus. They're going to be there a long time. Joseph knows that the brothers know who he is, and he proved it to them. He told them about things that happened to him that only they would know. You must tell my father of all my honor in Egypt. Let him know that when you come down here, I'm in charge. I prepared for this very long famine, and you've got a place to stay here where everybody can be safe. It's an emotional reunion with Benjamin, his full brother, and the rest, all his half-brothers, the love and mercy that's in Joseph's character. And we will finish off chapter 45, verses 16 through 28. Fine, 16, 28.
When the report was heard in Pharaoh's house, Joseph's brothers have come. It pleased Pharaoh and his servants, and said to Joseph, say to your brothers, do this, load your beasts, and go back to the land of Canaan, and take your father and your households, and come to me. And I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you shall eat the fat of the land. And you, Joseph, are commanded to say, do this, take wagons from the land of Egypt for your little ones, and bring your father, and come. Have no concern for your goods, for the best of all the land of Egypt is yours. The sons of Israel did so. And Joseph gave them wagons according to the command of Pharaoh, and gave them provisions for the journey. To each and all of them he gave a change of clothes. But to Benjamin he gave 300 shekels of silver, and 5 changes of clothes. To his father he sent as follows, 10 donkeys loaded with the good things of Egypt, and 10 female donkeys loaded with grain, bread, and provision for his father on the journey. Then he sent his brothers away, and as they departed, he said to them, "Do not quarrel on the way." So they went up out of Egypt, and came to the land of Canaan to their father Jacob. And they told him, "Joseph is still alive, and he is ruler over all the land of Egypt." And his heart became numb, for he did not believe them. But when they told him all the words of Joseph, which he had said to them, and when he saw the wagons that Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of their father Jacob revived. And Israel said, "It is enough. Joseph, my son, is still alive. I will go and see him before I die."
I got his spirit back. Yay.
No, not right now.
Oh, yeah.
Joseph's brothers have come. It pleased Pharaoh. Pharaoh knew what kind of a guy Joseph was, that he was great and that he was really smart and helped save Egypt during this time. So the rest of his family coming down, this must be a good thing. Joseph is given the green light to move his family into Egypt as honored guests. So they're sent up carts and wagons and provisions, and Egypt as a country is footing the bill for this entire move. Everything that their father and everybody would need to move down is sent up with them. They're also sent, oh yeah, I already told you that. They're sent with provisions for the trip to go back. As they're sending provisions on the trip back, Joseph favors Benjamin and gives him more stuff than the brothers. Joseph was always favored among his brothers by his father. Now Joseph is letting Benjamin know that he's special as well, because Joseph didn't get to enjoy it. Joseph reminds them, do not quarrel on the way, because I know who you are. I know what kind of family you're raised in. I know what our family is known for, and that's fighting and bickering and being underhanded and tricky. So don't do it. Think of everybody else and keep going with what we've built here. Return home and tell father. When they get there, Jacob at first doesn't believe. Joseph has been gone for 20 years. It's like watching those videos and shows where somebody's been a missing person for so long and then they're suddenly found and brought back to the house. The people that are there have already dismissed this person as gone. Why should we hold out hope for somebody that's been gone for this long? So Jacob has already tuned his heart to think that Joseph has been gone. He's a missing person. Remember, they had tricked him with the wild animal death, and he had convinced himself. He knew that Joseph wasn't coming back. He's presented with evidence that Joseph knew certain things and all about God's plan, and it revives Jacob's heart to where he believes and loves Joseph again and wants to be with him. I will go and see him before I die. Abraham, the first patriarch, has lived a full life and has died, and Isaac has lived a full life and has died. Now Jacob is going to travel down and be reunited with his entire family, preparing himself for death. And it sets up, like I said, the book of Exodus, where the Israelite people live in Egypt and have to learn to love God again and have to leave and go back to the promised land. And what's fascinating is at this point in history, as I told you, the Egyptian people were, they thought of themselves as better than everybody else. They were very segregated. so that it would have been the perfect place for the Israeli people to live so that they didn't interbreed and get wiped out in the Egyptian culture. If they had stayed in Canaan, the Canaanite people just wanted to interbreed with the Israelis, and it would have wiped out Israel's chosen race. Now here we have it so where they're going to go down, their line is going to be saved, and they're going to survive. So it's the perfect place and time in God's plan for them to be in Egypt. And I just realized that the song Mighty to Save, the Israel people are going to be saved. So this song fits.
No.
All right. Okay. Mighty song. Perfect. It's there.
Do you want to sing this song?
It's his choice.
Down. All right. Mighty to Save. This particular version, like I said, is performed by Jeremy Camp.
Love is never failing. Like mercy for me. Everyone needs forgiveness. The kindness of the Savior. He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation. He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Take me as you find me, all my fears and failures, and fill my life again. I give my life to follow, everything I believe is now I surrender. He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation. He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Shine light, let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. Jesus, shine your light and let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. Sing, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation. He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Shine your light and let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. Jesus, shine your light and let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. Shine your light and let the whole world see. For the glory of the risen Jesus, shine your light and let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. Sing, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save. Forever, author of salvation. He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Jesus, you are holy. You are mighty to save. Mighty to save. You are worthy.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. If at any point you're not able to listen to music, you can go back. The first song we did was "The Lord Is a Warrior." Listen to that on your own. The second song is "Mighty to Save." That particular version we listened to was by Jeremy Camp. What? What?
You forgot to tell them who's here.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did. Well, in camera right in front of me with a Paul. Richard's off to his left. He's actually off camera, believe it or not. Steve is there. I'm Andy. To my right is Hannah and Grace. Off camera we have Jacob, my wife Liz, baby Leah,
And
dog
Noah.
Sweetheart. Like I said, this is my living room. This is my living room. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have a great week. Next week we'll meet again at 4 p.m. on a Monday. We hope you've learned something. Take it with you. Always be the best that you can be. Amen.